Alright guys, so audio, of course you know me, I get my hands dirty and all the little mic holes and everything on the camera gets full of dirt and grease, and then by the time I realize it, it's halfway through the video. So I about halfway through the video here, I took my blower nozzle and blew the holes out and then got the audio back. So anyway, then I kind of got mad about the whole thing because I was getting tired of that happening constantly on this camera. So I had a couple wireless mics, a couple of them YouTube viewers sent, and I probably spent an hour today trying to get those stupid things to pair Bluetooth to the camera. Never could. I went into the GoPro app, I went online, followed the directions that came with the mics. Never could get them to pair, never could get them to work. Got pissed off, threw them back on the table there, and said, to hell with it, I'll blow the holes out and go back to work. So, anyway, this is a D4D SA, and if you don't know what SA means on a cat, that's special application. That usually means it was a farm cat. There was a few differences on some of the SAs versus just a regular D4D. D4Cs, they had D4C SAs, but the farm cats were a little different. Some of them didn't have trunnions for blade arms. This one here, I don't see a drawbar, but a lot of them came with drawbars and remote couplers to hook up a, if you wanted to drag a disc with it. So when I was young, there was a lot of guys in this area and down south. I mean, that's all they farmed with was that was the main farming rigs were D4Ds and D5s. So and SAs, So anyway, if you didn't know that, maybe you know now. But this is a fumigation cat, and a lot of guys are going to say, how come these guys don't update their equipment and get newer equipment? For what these guys are doing, they don't really make a machine this size and this. It's just perfect for what they're doing. The balance, if you get the D4Es, there's an outfit called Trical that's another big. This outfit's called Sulfume. They're the other. There's only like two in the world, and as far as I know anyway. In this area, there's Sulfume and Trical. Well, Trical, they've got a whole bunch of these D4Ds and D4Es, and so when I worked for the strawberry nursery, we did our own fumigating. We had two fumigation cats, and I think we actually. It's kind of hard to get a license for that fumigation. It's a specialty applicators license. So, anyways, when we got done, when our guy retired that had the fumigator applicators license, we didn't want to go through all the hassle of getting another guy licensed. So I think we took the fumigation cats and we just sold them to Trical, if I remember right. I don't remember if we sold the whole cat or if I think what we did is I think we took all the gear off and sold the gear to them, and we kept the cats, if I remember right. But anyway, what we're doing to these is basically I've got 3 of these that I've got to do complete undercarriage overhauls. And as you can see, I knocked the track loose. These have alligators on them. Some of the old D4Cs that we had, you had to use a pin press. They didn't have alligators to take the track loose like this one. And if you're going to change rails on it, just take the torch and cut the pin on it anyway. I know there's a lot of terminology in CAP that you work on. We always around here called the track chain. They were always called rails. So if you get confused by what a rail is, the track chain. So anyways, I'm showing Trent here. He hasn't been around these cats very much, and I'm trying to show him. I was explaining to him what a salt track was, SALT. That's a sealed and lubricated track chain. I was explaining to him what to look for on pins and bushings, what gets worn, and showing him all the side play between the pins and the bushings. And I said, what happens, it doesn't look like much, but you start accumulating that between every link, and by the time you get around to the other end, it's a whole lot of slop. And what happens is, if you get your track tensioner out there so far, eventually you run out of adjustment, because those big dresser dozers I was working on, one of those, the pads and everything looked excellent on it. It came out of a landfill, but once we got the track off, then you saw what the problem was. pins and bushings inside were all worn out, and there was just a bunch of slop and play in them. And then the track was adjusted out as far as it'd go, and there was a stop on the end where the front idler stopped, and it wouldn't go any further, so you couldn't tighten the track up anymore. So about the only solution to do it right is, if since the pads on that dozer were in such good shape, is pull all the pads off and change the rails on it, and drive it onto the new rails and start pulling pads and putting them on the new ones. So, but these dozers here, these guys, this is a these guys depend on these dozers quite heavily. I mean, they can't be broke down. So they said, do it, whatever it needs. So we're changing all the pads, all the hardware, all the rails, the sprockets. Uh, if there's sometimes you got to really look at the front idlers and make sure that the rails haven't worn on the front idlers and worn through the front idlers. So anyway, Cat has discontinued most of the parts for these. So I'm going through TrackMan up in Spokane, Washington, and so far on this one, there's going to be about probably around 12 grand in parts on this one. So here's what I do need to put a call out to you guys, and I'm willing to buy it if a reasonable price. I really am in dire need. I can go borrow a sprocket puller from the company I used to work for, um, but I want to get my own. So does anybody out there know, or a Cat? I need I don't have to have the air over hydraulic set up like a lot of them I've seen are. I'd be happy with the old style hand pump, and then the puller arms and everything to pull the sprocket and the piston. So if anybody knows of that tool group or something, it doesn't have to be Cat. Uh, just anything comparable that works, if it works. I think OTC makes some too. So even if you find some, if anybody even has the short pistons and the flanges and stuff that go in the steering clutches, I would even be interested in renting or buying those as well. So if anybody knows where any of that stuff is, I would really like to have that stuff. So what's going on here? I'm going to be doing a whole lot more work on these Cats because they called me and said that they were moving all their equipment up here and they were leaving it up here. So they said, "You're the man. You're doing it all." I said, "Okay." Because they used to leave these things down south, and their mechanic, he would do all this stuff. But I don't know what happened. Something happened down there, and they don't need the equipment down there now or something, and they're going to leave them up here. So they're not going to haul them back and forth anymore. So, which is good for me, but that's why I never did really go out and I borrowed my old shop foreman's tool set down south numerous times, and I didn't work on that many after I left. But now that I'm gonna be doing 3 of these dozers this time, so I'm gonna go down and probably borrow it on the first one. Hopefully by the time I get to the second one, I've had a line on one. I can either rent one or buy one. Is my hopes. But I'm showing a bolt there that the threads are all screwed up on when I got it out. But there's a lot of things on this Cat that you don't see on other Cats. Everything's kind of specialty built on it for what they're doing. This is a fumigation Cat. And if you don't know what a fumigation Cat is, there's a lot of guys that are. What this does is it fumigates the ground. It puts methyl bromide and anhydrous into the ground to sterilize the ground. And I know there's a lot of guys that don't like that, but I'm going to tell you what, you don't have a choice when you're growing a certified strawberry plant. If you're growing certified strawberry plants, you have no choice. You have to fumigate the ground. It's the law. So the state will not certify the plant. The university will not certify the plant unless the ground has been sterilized and fumigated. So I know guys don't like that, and they're all about the organic stuff, but I'm going to tell you what about the organic stuff. If you want to pay more money for a sick product, then go ahead. Have at her. It's America. You can do whatever in the hell you want. So on this Cat here, there's a lot of things on the track frame. You'll see the cutting wheel on the track frame there for cutting plastic, and you'll see on the other side. Well, you can see on the right front corner. There's an engine up there. There's a bunch of hydraulics and stuff on there that aren't normally on these cats. There's a glue pump and glue deal that glues the seams on the tarp, what we call the tarp, when they're laying the tarp down. So anyway, you'll just see a lot of stuff that you don't normally see on a D4 cat. So what I'm doing here is I got to get all the guards off, and this piece here that they've got on here, I'm not even really sure what that piece is for, but it's kind of fighting me getting it off. But on a normal cat, you'll see right back there where I'm got on this piece, there's a diagonal brace, and there's 4 5/8 bolts. There's 2 on each side of the dead axle there, and you'll take them 4 bolts off that diagonal brace, and then you'll take all the guards up there where the track tensioner is, all the way up to the front. We're almost to the front idler. And then these have a spring up there in the front, and these here have just a keeper that keeps the spring in the saddle on it. So I just take the keeper out on that, and those 4 bolts on that diagonal brace, and then I jack the machine way up in the air and jack the machine up off the track frame. And then what you can do is, I'll show you later, you can just roll the track frame forward on the rails after you lay the rails out in front of the cat. So anyway, that's what I'm doing here. So you guys, I've been working on the 4455 too, trying to get it done. But speaking, I was thinking about the last steering clutch that I did on these style of older dozers is a D6C, and that belongs to the people that owns the 4455. And so I got a feeling on these old D4s, I'll probably be doing steering clutches, so I'm probably going to need, all that stuff too. So the other thing on this dozer here, as I was pulling it in the shop, and some of these D4s that had the wet clutch in them would do that. I remember that some of ours would, that they kind of acted up a little bit, and the clutch didn't work right till they got warmed up, and then they'd come in and out of gear. But this one here, I think we got to mess with the clutch and the adjustment a little bit, because on these you push the clutch handle forward, and that's your clutch brake, so you can get it in gear. But I couldn't hardly get it in gear, and then it was with the handle all the way forward on it, the damn thing would take off moving when you started it without pulling the handle back. So, that shouldn't do that, even if the oil's cold, I don't think. So that's another thing we're going to dig into on this dozer here. It's not really a dozer, I'll just say cat, because it doesn't have trunnions for blade or anything. But anyways, I don't get somebody offended. Somebody will correct me and say, well, that's not a dozer, it don't have a blade on it. But the other thing that we've got to do on this cat is the valve that runs all their hydraulics on the side of there. We got to pull that valve out of there and completely disassemble that and see if it needs seals or what. It's leaking internally, he said, and we've got to. Joe was the guy that runs this cat all the time. He said the last time that they had to pull them valves off, he said they had to take those spools and everything in the cat, and they had to rechrome the spools in them or something. He said it was leaking on the spools. So I don't know. We'll see what we get into. This should be interesting, huh? But what I'm showing you there's that diagonal brace right there. You'll see it. And once you get that diagonal brace unbolted, you just jack basically that whole machine up off the back of the final or back of the track frame, and then that track frame will be free to roll ahead. But you have to also pull that keeper out of the saddle where the spring is, so the spring will come above the track frame, and then the track frame will roll underneath the machine that you have jacked up. You'll see here in a little bit. Alright guys, so yeah, I had to quit for a little bit. Got a YouTube viewer here that got a 2000 and it's a newer Ford F350 with a 6.7. He transports RVs all over the country, and he from Utah, but his upper oil pan on that 6.7 is leaking like a sieve, so we're going to do that one tomorrow.
We'll try to video that if we can. But I gotta go look at a Mac in the morning and hook my scan tool to it and see what the codes are in it, and then I'm gonna come down and help him. I gotta get the gasket for that. Anyway, we'll keep going on this for now. I'm gonna drive ahead just a little bit and get that track to flop on over. The clutch is hanging up, so I gotta install it. Okay, that's a lot better. Now the track is off. Still didn't go out as far as I wanted it to go, but okay. Now, what we're gonna do, we gotta take this brace. There's 4 bolts here, should be. Take these 4 bolts off. I still gotta take this one guard off here. Let me get my light out. What in the hell I did with that? I don't know what I did with it. Losing my mind here. It's just, today has been just absolutely just chaos. Okay, so we gotta jack this thing up until, I'm trying to remember, I think you pull this bolt out right here if I remember right. You jack this up, jack the machine up till this piece here will come off, and this will clear this, and then you can pull the track frame right out of it. We'll get some jack stands to support it, but that's what we're going to do next. Dig the dirt out. Boy, I am all kinds of disorganized right now. It's just been just going a million different directions. People calling, and you know, I quit what I was doing to go out there and try to find a leak on that guy's pickup. It's just, I'm scatterbrained right now. Alright, now what we'll do here, what we'll do is we'll get a jack and a stand underneath the back of the Cat here and raise it up, and then the support will come up here, and then see this track frame will come out through here. I'm trying to remember. Must be stuck, rusted on there. That should be separating from there by now. Where is my hammer at? I would have thought that had been separated off of there by now. Okay. Wrong damn size. Wrong size. I forgot to take it loose on the inside. Dumbass. Separating or what? Rusted on there. goes. Alright guys, so this spring, there's a keeper here that keeps the spring in the hanger. Pull it out, and then what we do, we got a jack under there, and I already got the back blocked up. As you can see, everything's getting ready to come out. But what I do on these is I take my crane and I just kind of swing it out. But we got to jack it up to where the spring clears the support here on the track frame. Well, throw this over here with the rest of the parts, and then I gotta get the stand underneath this and block it up, and then get another block under the jack and keep going. So I had a better idea, which now I remember because I'm rusty. I do remember what I did. Pull the upper roller off, pull the 4 bolts out, pull the upper roller off, and then just roll the whole damn thing forward out in front of it where you can get to it. That's what I did. Now I remember. I just couldn't remember. Alright, I can get a hold of it right there and just pull it on out of there. No problem. We'll get this track frame off and then we'll call it a day, but I'm gonna let this thing, well, I got it blocked up underneath the center of the Cat, and then I got it all blocked up back here, so she shouldn't go nowhere. I don't know if I could get that just a little bit further. Yeah, that's easy like that, and then I can just grab a hold of it, pick it up nice and square, and when I go back together, I can just set it right back down. You know, it'll be back here, because what we're gonna do is get the new rails and pads and everything, and we're gonna lay them right behind it, and once we get all this together, we'll just set it back down. We'll set this back down exactly right, you know, out in front of it where it is. We'll roll it back underneath here. We'll put it back together when we do all this, and then we'll set it back down on the old rails, and we'll just back it up right onto the new ones and put them together. Kind of, if there's a hump right here in the floor, and I'm kind of going uphill where they took that old spud equipment out. There it goes. Pretty good. All right. Let me get my truck fired up. We'll get back here, grab that track frame. I want to flip it upside down and check those rollers. So what we're doing here, guys, we're just gonna flop it over for now. I got to reposition it tomorrow, but if I even get time. But we're gonna get a list of what we need here. So I talked to the manager, and you know, just if I changed all the rollers, it almost adds $5 grand to the parts bill. So we decided that, you know, just change the rollers that are bad. That's something you can change in the field. You can, you know, detension your track and then jack the thing up and let the track sag on the bottom, and you can pull the rollers out. So whoa, look out, here we go. Okay, we need to get a hold of it in a different spot. tell you for certain this one here is absolute junk. Look at it. That one's junk. And that one there is pretty well, I don't think it's any good anymore. That one's fine. That one, somebody's recently changed that one. That one's fine. Okay, so we need 2 rollers for this one. 2 lowers, the upper's fine. Alright, so I'll set this, we gotta spin that front idler too and see what it feels like. Okay, there ain't nothing wrong with that. How worn out is this? These will wear thin on it. We used to build them back up, put metal on there and weld them back up and build them back up. This one looks pretty damn good though, really. So, all right, well for now, we're gonna get 2 rollers for this side. And I guess I'll be back with you when I do the other side. That's it for this video, guys. I'm gonna go home.